The case of Gideon v. Wainwright involves Clarence Gideon and the Florida State Court. Gideon was charged with a felony when he broke into a pool house with the intention to commit a misdemeanor offense. Gideon came to court without an attorney and requested that one be appointed to him. However, according to Florida state law, an attorney may only be appointed to an indigent defendant in capital cases, so the trial court did not appoint one. Gideon was found guilty after representing himself in court. He then filed a petition to the Supreme Court on the grounds that he had not been given the rights of the Sixth Amendment. Due to his appeal, the Supreme Court reviewed his case and overturned his conviction. The case of Malloy v. Hogan involved William Malloy and the Connecticut Superior Court. In 1959, William Malloy was arrested during a gambling raid in Hartford, Connecticut. After 90 days into his sentence, he was released on probation for 2 years. A year after his release, he was asked to testify in court again against gambling and other crimes. He was asked about his conviction and other gambling experiences, and he chose to refuse these questions on the grounds that he may be incriminating himself. The Connecticut court then proceeded to put him in jail until he was willing to answer the questions. This violated his Fifth Amendment right to remain silent in order to prevent self-incrimination. The argument made was that this amendment did not apply in state court. In the end, his appeal was denied. This was a landmark case because, for the first time, the Fifth Amendment privilege against self-incrimination was made applicable to state defendants. The case of Miranda v. Arizona is the compilation of 4 separate court cases dealing with the issue of the Fifth Amendment. In each case, there was a question of whether the incriminating information was obtained constitutionally. The cases included were Viniera v. New York, Westover v. United States, and California v. Stewart. After Supreme Court review, all cases were overturned except California v. Stewart. The court made
In the year 1913, the home of Mr. Fremont Weeks was entered impermissibly by police. They were hunting for evidence that would convict Mr. Weeks of illegally transporting lottery tickets in the mail. Weeks subsequently challenged the U.S., petitioning for the return of his personal possessions, on the premise of his civil liberties. Weeks claimed that the incident was a violation of his Fourth Amendment right to privacy. The argument was made that to allow private documents to be seized and then held as evidence against citizens would have meant that the protection of the Fourth Amendment declaring the right to be secure against such searches and seizures would be of no value whatsoever. The Supreme Court unanimously agreed that this was a direct violation of his constitutional rights. The case was considered to be a landmark because it was the first application of what is later to be named the exclusionary rule. The case of Wolf v. Colorado involved the civil liberties of Dr. Julius Wolf, who was convicted by the state court of conspiring to commit illegal abortions. This conviction was based on illegally obtained evidence. This was a violation of Wolf's Fourth Amendment protection against unwarranted search and seizure. During the trials, the court reasoned that, while excluding the evidence would be a good way to deter officials from violating the Fourth Amendment, there would be other ways that the evidence could be obtained while still meeting the minimum standards of the Due Process Clause. Civil remedies, such as the internal discipline of the police under the eyes of an alert public opinion, were sufficient. In the end, the Supreme Court ruled that the 14th Amendment did not subject criminal justice in the states to specific limitations and that illegally obtained evidence did not have to be excluded from trials in all cases. This was a landmark case because it was the first time that the court looked at the application of the 14th Amendment to the states. It established that the exclusionary rule does not apply to states. The Supreme Court case of Mapp v. Ohio involved Dalrymple Mapp and the protections guaranteed by the Bill of Rights. In 1958, the house of Dalrymple Mapp was illegally searched by police for a fugitive. In the process, she was convicted of possessing obscene materials. Mapp appealed this conviction on the basis of freedom of expression. The court ruled against the First Amendment and held that all evidence obtained by searches and seizures in violation of the Constitution is inadmissible in the state court. This ruling became a landmark case ruling because it extended the exclusion of illegally obtained evidence to all levels of government, going against what they had ruled in Wolf v. Colorado, which made it difficult for the court to decide when to apply the exclusionary rule in future cases.